We're going to conclude the evening with a recap session that's going to bring everybody together from both our panels and our keynote speakers from the beginning. And then after that, we're going to have some closing remarks from KaLea Lehman from the Military Special Operations Family Collective. Dr. Chris Frueh is going to pick this up. He's going to moderate the final session. So Chris, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Fran. Well, we have just a few minutes left. And I think what we would like to do with this last half hour is talk about takeaways, key takeaways, maybe some questions that are still lingering in people's minds, and then maybe close out with a little bit of discussion about the next conversation or future conversations and where those should go and what those should be about. So I want to give our two keynotes an opportunity. So Eric, if you're good with this, I think I'll let you start. And the question that I'll put to you is, and you can take this in a variety of ways, but maybe what are some key takeaways or a key takeaway that you have formulated over the last hour and a half? And, or if you would like, you're welcome to ask a question of any of the other panelists here.
Yeah, thank you. Those were two very powerful sessions. This is my first time in this forum, and but not my last. This is really useful and helpful. And my big takeaway is that teammates are always teammates, and the community is much bigger and growing. Bigger than we believe it was, and still growing to include so many dedicated experts who care so much about this community and the future. And I want to thank everybody who's part of this, some of whom have suffered their own tragedies, for staying focused on this as important to SOF's present and future being. I think I don't really have a question. I would say that sort of an observation is that we are never not teammates, and that in service we have to continue to plan for life after service. Most are likely to live a long time after their service in SOF, and how they think about who they will be and what they will be and how they will continue to contribute, how they will continue to be teammates in all of their teams and tribes, and how they will know how and when to seek help. Is I think just becoming more and more important. And with that, I'll pass it back to you,
Tom.
The thing that I'm struck by, and I guess I'll go back to Admiral Olson's vision and POTUF is maybe, if not the very start, certainly a very important catalytic event. But in my mind, probably the start in terms of some sort of an enterprise-wide commitment to the health and welfare of the community. And I guess for a good part of my career, and certainly my post-military career, I've sort of been head down and was not really aware of all of the things that folks associated with the community or folks that were members of the community that have gotten into these programs or started programs. And it is heartening to see how either folks from within the community that have brought professionals in or professionals that became interested or were recruited, have joined into something that is really a very, very remarkable and heartwarming collaborative enterprise that looks to address the health and welfare of our community. And it's something that now that I am fully retired, as of the 31st of August, this is the sort of thing that I would like to become more involved in, because I need a sense of purpose. I need something that's going to get me up every morning, that's going to excite me. And my military service and post-military work, it provided that. But as we've heard people refer during the course of this event, I mean, we all need that something that we can attach to, that gives us a sense or a connection to something that is greater than who we are as individuals. And I think these sorts of endeavors, they're just phenomenal. I mean, they just absolutely are. And to all of you that are contributing, to all of you that are participating and offering your comments, thanks so very much. You know, for folks that, you know, give so much to our country, that we're able to give back to them. And even though I feel a connection to them, I mean, they're the current generation. God bless you for the things that you're doing for our community. I commend you for what you do. I'm thankful for your efforts. And if there's ever anything that I can do to assist, I'm all in.
Thank you. I think that helps me segue over maybe to look at Preston for your comment, takeaways, thoughts.
I wonder if I can cheat just a little bit and see if I can tee up a question for Admiral Olson if he's up for it. And you can decline, sort of. I'll paint the picture, and if you decline, I'll take it from there. But here's one of the things that always fascinates me is that you were a key leader at a super interesting time, historic time in the country's history. And you had to be living a life where at times you were part of significant history-making conversations, and then having to transition to go get groceries or pump gas or take out the garbage. And I think these kinds of transitions, going from these monumental conversations or taking place like Mogadishu, other things, and then the sort of normal everyday stuff and that gear change. And over the years, you've had to probably have made that gear change a lot of times. And for those like me who study that, or people that are doing that for real, if you were to look at somebody at the front end of a career that maybe like yours and said, here are some things you might want to think about making those transitions, do you have any general advice? You're on mute, sir.
Thank you. I mean, first of all, I never avoid answering a question, so thanks for asking. I just take a slightly different take on it. For me, I don't think it was a bunch of stops and starts or shifting gears. I think that that it was always about the missions I was on, and those missions were, you know, sometimes simultaneous and sometimes quite different from each other. So sometimes my mission was to look after my family, and sometimes my mission was to do what operators do. And so for me, it was less a balance of stops and starts and gear shifts as trying to evaluate the distinction at that moment between what was more urgent and what was more important. And some things are always about most important, but you have to pay more attention at that moment to what's urgent. And sometimes you can sort of get back to what's more more important. But I think that's a sliding scale of importance and urgency. And as long as you're focused on the mission and you can balance that scale, I think that's, for me anyway, that's kind of what helped.
It's a super, super helpful answer. Thank you. And it ties into what CSM Corbett was saying about his transition and looking for mission and purpose. And what I often say is, at any given time, what is an individual in service to in that particular moment? What is their mission? What are they getting after? And if the answer is, I don't know, that's a bit problematic for teammates. And so getting them refocused on that's really important.
And I'll just pile on myself here, which is you also have to learn to trust. And we naturally learn to trust our teammates in an operational environment, but sometimes trusting others around us is a little more difficult. And in my case, I know I absolutely trusted members of my family and my extended circle of friends and sort of cohorts who weren't on my, weren't on my specific team. Where sometimes being able to give that trust is the hardest thing.
Chris, I have nothing more eloquent to say than that, so I'm going to go ahead and pass off.
Beautiful, beautiful. Chelsey, let me hit you up next. Key takeaways, thoughts, questions.
Key takeaways. You know your body better than anybody else. So if something's not right, and it's present for 2 weeks, 2 or more weeks, then speak up, talk to your doctor, and one thing I can say, because I am a provider, is do not hold them on a pedestal. If they say, oh, you're fine, it's fine. You know your body better than anybody else. Seek a second opinion, reach out. I'm still answering questions right now. It's been 12 hours. So people constantly, how can I do this? Should I be worried about this? Reach out. Talk to a teammate, talk to Rob, it's a lived experience. So it's one of those things, you only have one life and you survived a lot worse things in your lifetime. So, just take control of your health and be your own best advocate. So that's my biggest key takeaway is be your own best advocate, speak up if something's not right.
Amanda, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the kind of the resounding theme for me is the concept of community and tribe, whether that be amongst the SOF community, or if you are facing a cancer diagnosis or concerned about that, or you're a survivor, is just finding the right resources and people to help guide you through that. I think there's a positive note here, even though the statistics are staggeringly high. For cancer diagnoses, it's the advancements have never been so rapid and so available to a patient to be able to access better care. There's a lot of options out there, and I think if what we're working with is trying to navigate what options amongst so many, it's a positive place to be compared to 10 years ago. And there's definitely a community of advocates and people that are really passionate about helping patients access this that are out there. So that would be, my reflection. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and learn more about what's happening amongst the SOF community.
Rob, I guess the same question to you, but with one little additional twist on it, which is, what are we missing? What have we not talked about today? We've not talked about many things, but what have we missed today that we need to be more mindful of in future conversations?
I think part of it is what now, right? And we started this conversation last December when SOCOM Surgeon's Office sponsored a Cancer and SOF symposium and let people ruminate on it for a long time. But my takeaway from the history of toxic exposure and what we need to do is that there's 3 buckets of cohorts, I think. The first is active duty folks, and Special Operations Command and Defense Health Agency are going to figure out what to do, and they're going to drive something. Their problem is they're in the bureaucracy, and so there's tons of agencies and staff officers with a bucket full of no's to get in their way when they try to be creative. The second cohort is the SOF veteran community. We have much more flexibility, but less structure to get after the problem. And I think what we need to do is conduct a swarm on this, where a bunch of small entities attack the problem from different angles through great coordination and a sense of purpose on the mission. And we're going to talk about that a little bit in December. And then the third cohort is, God help them, the conventional forces. They don't have 43 plus different SOF veteran service organizations that are raising money, that are advocating for them, that are providing additional support. And so I think it's incumbent upon the SOF community to do what we've always done and break trail for conventional forces as we discover a way to attack this with better education and awareness, with more research, with precision medicine. We need to get on step to transfer that to the broader conventional forces, both active duty and the veterans community.
Fran, I saved you for last. I know you thought as an MC you didn't have to say or think anything too deeply, but we're going to put you on the spot.
I guess so.
Takeaways. I mean, I know you're a pretty face, but I think there's some thoughts. There's some deep thoughts percolating in there.
When I reflect on this conversation, one of the biggest things that I think about is action. And everything requires us in special operations, we're action oriented. I think one of the biggest things that we hear from transitioning veterans is, I'm results oriented. I want to do something that most people don't want to do. I have to constantly change my environment. I'm going to be bored if I take a desk job and sit here and type on a computer all day. Everything we talked about today is about taking action. And I think that started in the beginning with the keynote. And we talked about some of the defining actions that were taken by a number of our leaders throughout history to define what special operations is today. And then as we look at the health sprints, we talk about how do we actually, take a minute to look internally and think about how are we feeling? I mean, we as special operators, although we are accustomed to taking action and making decisions very quickly. When it comes to our own personal well-being, that is where we tend to hit the brakes and stop and not want to do anything and think that we're going to be okay. And, to Preston's comments about, we've got to understand ourselves, and our own behavior, first. We tend to not do that as special operators. And so, if we want to build a force that is going to persevere for the future and both, and we discussed that in the first keynote, what's our biggest job as leaders? It's to develop the next generation behind us. And I think, we've done a very effective job of that, but we got to make sure that we take care of people first. And the best way that we take care of people first is to look internally, make sure that we feel good, that we are operating at our highest capacity, and then invest in those people in that soft truth number one behind us. And so I think we have a lot of work to do around this as a community, but it starts with organizations like this and conversations like this, because we can't take action if we don't first understand ourselves. So that's my thoughts, Chris.
Thank you. That's excellent. So I guess we're almost out of time, but I think we have 5 minutes for one more thing that I'll put out here. And this is, we have a lot of viewers. We have listeners. We have folks that may be tuning into this at a later time via recording. What would you guys like to say to the audience? What can our audience do to support or take action on the things we've talked about today? How can people help the community? What can be done? Anyone want to field that question?
Well, I think there's two things as it relates to cancer and SOF. One is that KaLea asked me to chair the cancer task force within the collaborative, and right now that exists of me. So if you're interested, if you're passionate and want to join the task force to get after this, then reach out to KaLea and company, and and get on the task force. And the second one is every one of us comes from a tribe, and my tribe, the SEAL community, has 7 or 8 separate VSOs that support us. And I have been beating down their doors to pay attention to cancer, to support with advocacy and education. And each one is doing something. Everyone can do something more. So my recommendation for SOF veterans is to go to your VSO in the Green Beret community, in the Ranger community, in the Raider community, in the aviation community, and ask them to get involved and be more involved, because I think they're a huge part of the answer.
I'll join you on that committee. I'll volunteer for that committee that you're leading.
Chris, I'll jump in. I would just amplify what Admiral Olson was just saying, which is, as I look at the communities from day one, everyone is being evaluated and evaluating others on levels of trust and competence. If you want to be part of this community, you'd better have high levels of trust and competence. And as you leave the communities, and I don't mean leave the communities as in you leave the brotherhood, but you go into the ordinary world, one of the questions you need to start asking yourself is, how do you create trust in others? How does others gain trust in you? And how do you evaluate competence? And if you hold everyone to the standards of your former community, you're going to be really lonely. And so you've got to figure out the ways to go the extra effort to find out ways to trust people without feeling like you're betraying your values. So I'll pause there, and I want to say that, so if I screwed anything up, Admiral Olson could correct it.
I don't have anything to correct. I just extend what Rob said, and not to diminish the importance of what any individual is doing or what any organization is doing. But as Rob highlighted, there are so many opportunities to support in so many ways. Now, maybe you're more interested in spouse abuse than in cancer. Maybe you're more interested in suicide than in cancer. Maybe whatever it is has captured you because of some life experience. There's an organization that you can support that is focused on that. And so I would just urge and I think nobody would be signed into this if they weren't already interested in this. So I'd say just spread the word. There are so many ways that each of us can help in some way, and so many people who are so grateful to receive whatever help they get. That I just urge everybody to do something.
So in concluding, before I pass the baton over to Fran and KaLea, I'll add my own thought to this, which is I've been talking and working and consulting with operators going on 10 years now. And for the longest time, I didn't know what the other resources out there were. So I had trouble connecting individuals to programs, to foundations, to services. And a lot of it was do it yourself, figure it out yourself. And one of the things that's really been heartening for me in what I've seen is the coming together that the community is starting to do now, and the small foundations that are connecting with each other and becoming larger groups. I know that several of you who have your own foundations or leaders within one foundation are now joining boards of other foundations, and we have the Military Special Operation Family Collaborative, and the collaborative has been such a powerful opportunity for different groups, but with the same mission, the same goal, to come together, to work together. So I want to express that appreciation to everybody, that it now feels like that we're rowing together in a way we weren't 5 years ago. So I'm not sure, do I hand this over to Fran or to KaLea? Who gets it next?
I'm just going to pass it right over to KaLea, Chris. So appreciate you leading this conversation, and very sincere thank you to all of our speakers, all of our panelists, and everybody who joined in to partake in this conversation tonight. We said in the beginning that the goal is to take something away concrete that you could put to use, right as soon as you hit end on this thing. And I think that we achieved that in many different ways, and encourage everybody to join the deep dives that are coming up. I know we put them in the chat, and the team will be pushing out more correspondence on those over the course of the next couple of weeks. But truly an honor to be here. From my perspective, I very much enjoy these conversations and the opportunity to sit with everybody. And I'm going to turn it over to KaLea.
Thanks, Fran. I appreciate it. Thank you for emceeing tonight and being our guide throughout this event. Admiral Olson and CSM Corbett, I couldn't be more honored than that you guys would join our team room tonight. Your history, your legacy just had me reflecting so long. It was the highlight of the month, and frankly this year, looking back over the preparation for these team rooms, started a year ago now. Rob, Preston, Chelsey, Amanda, thank you for joining us tonight, leading our sprints. Each of these sprints are brought on by feedback from subcomponents, from viewers, from feedback we get from advisory boards. We try to cover the topics where people are looking for resources, looking for guides, and we find the people doing it best and try to connect them along with our partner in doing this event, Global SOF Foundation. We couldn't put the team room on without them, and we're proud to co-host this with them and connect the community and all the organizations and the efforts doing the hard work to try to close the gaps. We're strongest when we come together, and on behalf of Military Special Operations Family Collaborative, we're driven to add certainty to the journey for everyone. So we look for who's doing the best and take joy in elevating what they're doing. So thank you for joining us tonight. We would appreciate all of your feedback. If you would like to join us for our deep dive on cancer and SOF, or join our task force, which will be looking at creating all of the moving pieces together and helping connect the dots and not leave people in the dark. That will be the primary focus of our task force, is being a connector of all the things going on so that we can move together more briskly. And reach out to us on our home webpage, or simply fill in that you would like to be connected to that through the feedback form that was dropped in the chat. Or you can find on any of the pages. We'll be sending out a blog and replays for this event. And as we look at 2023, we would love to hear, what do you want to hear more of? What would you like to get more specific on? Who do you want to hear from? And how can we best serve SOF as we move forward together? So with that, I will not hold anyone up any further. And I wish you all a great night, a very happy Thanksgiving and holiday season. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you, Admiral.
Thanks, KaLea.
Thank you. Thank you, CSM.